welcome to The Book is Better, where we're fixing today's movies one book at a time. So, lately I've been getting a lot of requests to review Twilight, and while I do respect and appreciate every request that comes my way, this time I'm going to ignore it. Mostly because I really don't want to put up with Kristen Stewart's lifeless face. Now, everyone, please, relax. I have a compromise. I won't read, watch, or experience Twilight in any way, shape, or form, but I can give you another disappointing vampire movie. Leia, don't encourage the angry masses! In many ways, it seems like the tween-fueled vampire craze that's cast a shadow over the last several years might finally be winding down. With True Blood finishing its last season, movies like Underworld Awakening or Vampire Academy doing poorly both financially and critically, and this thing, Dead and Buried, I can only wonder how much longer the zombie craze can hope to last. Maybe next we'll get some sort of a Frankenstein fad.
Up next on All My Stitches, he's a simple Goliath with the heart of a child. She's a sensible woman with the brains of two men. Can these two reanimated lovers make it work?
I am not doing this.
Oh, come on, it'll be funny!
I'm not gonna waste my time in your 10-second Frankenstein fetish skit, okay? If you want me back on your show, give me a real part to play.
It's not a fetish, it's... Look, can't you do it just this once?
No!
Find out tonight on Fox. Fox will buy literally any TV show.
So with all these vampire movies out, it's no wonder someone tried to get the kid and young teen demographic with an adaptation of Cirque du Freak, the Darren Shan saga. Written by author Darren Shan. Alright, I gotta go on a tangent on this. Yes, the author and main character here share a name. But before you automatically assume this is the laziest self-insertion ever, let me explain. Born Darren O'Shaughnessy, Shan decided to shorten his last name when he started writing kids' books to avoid confusion. And then he named his main character Darren Shan because... Actually, he doesn't really explain why in the interview I found. The books are written in first person, and Darren, the character, claims that everything in the book is real, which is why he shares a name with the author. It doesn't strike me as self-insertion so much as really lazy world building. Hell, if you want to see the same thing done better, check out the Alcatraz Smedry series by Brandon Sanderson. There, the main character says he had to change his name to avoid the evil librarians coming after him. Just read the books, it makes sense. Anyway, back on track. The first book in the series was written in 2000 with a total of 4 trilogies to follow. The writing style is really simplistic and in some ways juvenile, and there's no question that these books are aimed at young boys. There's gross-out humor, sports, and it was written back when vampires were more of a guy's thing, not the annoying, screaming tween fanatics foaming at the mouth thing. You hear me, Twilight? You took vampires away from us! I'm glad you're dead and gone and you're never coming back! What the hell keeps happening there? Anyway, the movie came out in 2009, tucked safely in the middle of the vampire craze, but even though the movie had some good actors in it like John C. Reilly, Ken Watanabe, and Willem Dafoe, it was held back by director Paul Weitz, the same asshole whose screenplay botched up the Golden Compass. Even worse, the movie received underwhelming reviews immediately and didn't even make back its $40 million production cost. But that's enough background info, we have a movie to watch. So let's check out Cirque du Freak, the Vampire's Assistant. So we open to a joke the Nostalgia Critic once made. And we see the main character's funeral. Well, that was quick. See you guys next month. Okay, so he isn't dead. He's just relaxing in his coffin before the opening credits start. And they go on. And on. And on. Oh gods, this has been going on for 3 minutes. The movie hasn't even started and I'm already bored out of my skull. The movie begins for real and we see that Darren is an average high school student with a troublesome friend named Steve, played by Josh Hutcherson, aka Peter Malark.
Hey man, I bet you can't hit that life from all the way back here.
They find a poster for the Cirque du Freak and decide to go, but their teacher doesn't really approve.
A freak show? This is illegal. I hope you weren't thinking of attending this. Because the idea of taking a group of disgusting, weird, deformed people and exploiting them for money, not in our town.
How do you know it's not all an act for the sake of the show? It seems like a pretty good angle to use if no one else is doing what they're doing. Also, nice false outrage there. Yeah, hypocrite.
I'm assuming no one in this class would actually go to this.
So since this high school teacher has apparently never met a high school student before, Darren and Steve break curfew in order to watch the show. They meet the ringmaster, Mr. Tall, played by Ken Watanabe, who gives them the warmest of greetings.
Are you boys 21? Say yes.
Yeah.
The show itself runs the gamut between having okay special effects to effects that would be embarrassing even in a high school play. Most of the performances rush by, as if the screenwriters were saying, yeah, we included them, now you can't complain. I didn't edit that, that's really how quickly it's cutting these acts up. None of the freaks really get much attention until Mr. Crepsley dashes on stage, played by John C. Reilly.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited to be here in an anonymous small town which used to have character but is now just a bland suburb filled with chain stores and surrounded by slums.
This guy is awesome! In the book, Larkin Crepsley was a stern, dramatic man with little patience for anything distracting or useless. In the movie, he's strict and solemn, but talks in a playful manner that shows off Riley's ability as an actor.
It really is a pleasure to be here.
However, his act draws both boys in. Steve is obsessed with vampires and recognizes Crepsley from a book he owns about vampires, and Darren is attracted to Mr. Crepsley's spider.
She's beautiful.
You see,
Steve was obsessed with vampires, and I, on the other hand, was obsessed with spiders.
maybe a little too obsessed.
May I have my spider back, please?
This probably could be a real fetish, but I'm too afraid to find out for sure. After the show, Darren sees a chance to steal Mr. Crepsley's spider, but Steve sees another chance.
I want you to make me into a vampire. I absolutely hate my life. Never actually said it before, but it's the truth.
Well, if that's the case, let's test your blood.
No. No.
Who sent you here? Your blood tastes of evil.
Naturally, Steve doesn't like this.
One day, I promise you I will hunt you down.
And what? Kill me.
God, to tell one brat he can't have supernatural powers and then all of a sudden he's swearing a vendetta against you. However, Darren escapes with the spider he sought, and the first thing he does is show Steve.
You stole from a vampire? Do you realize you're a dead man? Shh, you're a dead man.
Ugh. I already don't like spiders, but by trying to make it cute, it's not only cartoonishly CG, it's distractingly CG. Still, it can kill with one bite, so that's kinda cool. So much for that revenge plot, huh, kid? So now that Steve looks like he's growing a mold culture on his face, Darren does the only thing he can think of and asks Mr. Crepsley for help.
It looks like you're in deep shit, my larcenous friend.
Whoa, guys, watch the swearing! This movie was made for little kids. Unlike my show.
All right. I'll do it. I'll make...
Shit pickle. Fortunately, Crepsley does have the antidote for the spider bite, but he'll only hand it over if Darren becomes his slave. I mean assistant.
You'll become my assistant. I'll turn you into a half-vampire. You'll be able to go out in the daylight. Very useful for me.
So Steve is saved and Darren becomes Crepsley's assistant. However, there's one drawback.
But you can't just leave. You're going to have to die first. Sorry about that.
And so we're back at the beginning. And now Darren's a vampire. Well, a half vampire if you want to be exact. The book actually explained what a vampire was in pretty good detail. Sunlight didn't kill them outright, but it would after a few hours. Drinking blood from another vampire was poisonous. They didn't fucking sparkle! And rats and spiders were naturally friendly to them. A half vampire was largely the same, except they aged faster than full vampires and could go out in sunlight. But for the most part, these rules aren't really acknowledged in the movie. Since he's a vampire now, Darren has to live in secret, away from normal humans. And where better than the Cirque du Freak?
So how are you effed up?
Effed up?
Freaked up. What kind of freak are you?
Come on. You know that's not gonna work, right? It'll work if we force it! Darren meets a few of the freaks and makes some new acquaintances, specifically Ever the Snake Boy and Rebecca the Monkey Girl. He even meets these little guys.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild.
Meanwhile, Steve is making his own friend, a mysterious man named Mr. Tiny.
I despise freaks. Can a freak travel back and forth between life and death? Can a freak bring about the apocalypse?
Probably. I mean, look at this guy.
Tremble, for I bring the purity of oblivion to your world.
Freak. Darren is getting used to the Cirque, but is having trouble adjusting as a vampire.
Try it.
The thought of drinking blood disgusts him and refuses to do so, and as such, he is considerably weaker.
Ow! Oh, God, I think I broke a nail.
You broke a nail?
So Krebsley sits him down and teaches him what to do.
We just make a small incision in his shoulder, right here. And then you take a sip.
But the idea still repulses Darren.
No, I'm not gonna drink human blood.
I can't say I blame him. I mean, who wants to suck on a sweaty farmer's shoulder?
Friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other's gold.
Okay, now he doesn't have an excuse. Eat them, Darren! End the insipid singing! But while that's going on, Steve joined Mr. Tiny and became a vampire himself, becoming a member of the Vampanese, or vampires who kill people when they drink their blood. In fact, the Vampanese and Mr. Tiny want Darren for some reason, so a group of them attack the Cirque. Until the Wolfman gets out. Why do these vampire movies always come back to Underworld? However, the other freaks take exception to this and stand up to the evil vampires.
I don't even like the Wolfman, but that don't mean you can come in here and beat up on a freak.
You're messing with the wrong sideshow, baby.
I'll bite your damn noses off.
I'm gonna ram my head up your ass.
Gross.
But when the Vampanese leave, Darren discovers they've kidnapped Rebecca and his family, and they're holding them all at the old theater when he first saw the Cirque du Freak. And he runs into Steve's trainer, a Vampanese named Murloc.
Does Murloc have talent? No. What do you know about talent?
I've never seen a movie sum itself up so succinctly. And even though Murloc has plenty of victims to choose from, he seems focused on something else.
Applause! 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 Applause!
Steve even shows up and gloats about his new vampire powers, easily knocking Darren aside since the latter is weak from not drinking blood. However, Krebsley shows up and begins fighting Murloc. Then Rebecca frees herself and gives Darren a solution.
Is that your tail?
Well, yeah.
I'm really sorry I got involved in this, okay?
Please stop staring.
You have a badly CG'd tail growing out of your butt. Can you blame him?
So you really need blood?
Yeah.
Alright. Can you just take a little?
As Krebsley loses a fight that would make Nicole Curtis cry, Darren finally comes in, powered up on blood in all his silly string-inspired glory. But Mr. Tiny has other plans and literally pauses the fight mid-CGI. Boy, that could be a pretty useful power to have. So Steve and Darren part, but Mr. Tiny is sure that Darren will still join his forces one day.
After all, you are the bloodthirsty one.
No, Just because I'm a vampire doesn't mean I'm bloodthirsty. It's not about what you are, it's about who you are.
Nice read of a trite lesson you learned 5 minutes ago, kid.
Darren, being human's not about what you are. It's about who you are.
So Mr. Tiny turns Murloc into a shriveled cow's fetus. Darren's family gets their memories erased. Darren and Rebecca kiss, awkwardly. Then Darren is made a full member of the Cirque. Well, that was odd. But how does the movie stack up? Well, the books were meant for kids and were a fairly simple read, but there was a certain charm about them. I only read 3 books from the series, that being The Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, and Tunnels of Blood. They established the world well enough, albeit slowly, and presented some decent characters. However, I don't think the jejune writing style, the gross-out humor, or the preteen romance will really appeal to anyone outside of the 9 to 13-year-old boy demographic. I give the book a 2 out of 5, unless you're in the target demographic, in which case it's a 3 out of 5. The movie tried to cut itself from similar cloth, but fell short. It presented a predictable story, and while there were some fun bits to it, too much of it focused on Chris Masoglia, who just wasn't very good.
Whoa, is that like vampire power? Do I super spit now?
Sadly, that was the case for almost every actor here, except for Crepsley and, in a smaller way, Steve. Steve at least seemed believable, and John C. Reilly is hilarious.
All right, if you want to pretend this isn't happening, fine. But being a vampire takes skill. What is a cold blue?
However, like the book, it's filled with extraneous characters who don't really contribute to the story much and don't really have an impact. Otherwise, the music sucks, the cinematography is dull, and the special effects look like they could have been taught in a low-level college class. Not a terrible movie, but certainly not a good movie. I give it a 2 out of 5. Now, as an adaptation, I was actually impressed. At first. You see, the first half of the movie was a pretty faithful representation of the first book, Cirque du Freak. But then it picked up where the book left off and made up its own story, which fit the universe and didn't have any massive plot holes. I mean, the second half could be based on another book, but if it is, I didn't read it. Even better, they left the door open for a sequel that didn't seem forced or contrived. I want to give the adaptation a 4 out of 5, but I can't.
That's bullshit.
You see, the other big problem the movie has is that it doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it a dark comedy or a quirky drama? Is it for kids or for teenagers? If it were just for kids, then it would get the higher mark, but with Darren's age change and all the swearing in it, I have to dock it points. It may have been an okay kids book, but this is not a great kids movie, and as such, could have been better as an adaptation. But at least it still earns a 3 out of 5. So that's about as average as it gets. Nothing lost, but nothing gained. But we'll make sure to go after something much bigger next time. A whole mountain full of gold! A dragon, a wizard, elves, dwarves, and one small hobbit. Oh yes, it will be epic.